Hello, I'm Angela Rice Beemer, and you just tuned into a program called Chautauqua. Chautauqua is an unusual name, but a very interesting program. It gets its name from Lake Chautauqua, New York, where the first Chautauqua began in 1874 as a training course for Sunday school teachers. Over the years, Chautauqua changed from a training course to a traveling roadshow, and today, Chautauqua is a living history humanities program where scholars and actors dress up in full costume to portray famous people in history. This year's theme is Sporting Lives, and tonight's Chautauqua character is a woman who was not even expected to walk because she had polio. But she went on to win 3 gold medals in track and field at the 1960 Olympics. Tonight's Chautauqua character is the indomitable Wilma Rudolph.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Oh, the memories that it brought back. Oh, and thank all of you, everyone who came out this afternoon for the Wilma Rudolph Foundation reception. You all came armed with your checkbooks, and you were very generous with your donations, and I do appreciate that. You see, I started the Wilma Rudolph Foundation in 1982 to train young athletes in national and international competition. But I wanted to do more than that. I wanted to spare these young women some of the difficulties that I had to go through. See, I had to learn the hard way how to go from celebrity and fame to being just a regular young woman again. I had to learn what to do when the applause stopped. See, being a superstar for a little while is not enough to build a life on. Well, you heard about my Olympic career. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I come from a very large family. I was the 20th child of 22 children. I was born in 1940, which was an Olympic year, if you remember. I guess it was a foreshadowing of what was to come in my life. So you probably wouldn't have guessed it by how I started out. You see, I was a premature baby. I came before my time. My mother fell when she was pregnant, and the next thing she knew, I was being born. I guess being premature would explain why I had such a sick childhood. I would catch just a common cold, and it would linger on for weeks and develop into something else. I was skinny and scrawny and never had the strength all the other children had. I was the sickest child in Clarksville, Tennessee. As a child, you name it, and I had it. I had chicken pox and measles and mumps like other children. But when I was 4 years old, I developed double pneumonia and scarlet fever. My mother treated it with home remedies, hot toddies, stuff like that, and she'd wrap me in blankets to sweat out the fever. Remedies that worked for other children, but I guess I wasn't like other children. When my fever finally did break, my mother noticed that my leg was all crooked and my foot turned inward. She took me to see Dr. Coleman. He was the only black doctor in Clarksville at the time. And Dr. Coleman told my mother that while I was in my weakened state, I had contracted polio. Now, this was before the vaccine, and thousands of children were dying every year from polio. Dr. Coleman told my mother that I would probably never walk again. But my mother told him that I would walk again. And I decided to believe my mother. We had to go to the hospital twice a week, every week for my treatments. And this was difficult on my mother because She had other children, and she had to work. When she didn't work, she didn't get paid. And the other difficulty was the hospital in Clarksville didn't treat black people. So we had to get on a bus and go 50 miles we had to go into Nashville for my treatments. And they would pull and twist and yank on that crooked leg and then wrap it up in towels and stick it in hot water and then start all over again. My mother, she would give me the same treatments every day, 4 times a day at home, with help from my older brothers and sisters. I guess with all that love and care, I had to get better. Well, when I was 5 years old, I got fitted for my brace. Oh, Lord, I hated that thing. It was so ugly. It was these 2 steel rods that fit into an orthopedic shoe. And oh, I hated it. It was so ugly. And I know I needed it. It kept my legs straight. But it reminded me there was something wrong with me. Beside the brace, I was still always sick all the time, sneezing and coughing and sniffling. I used to get so mad at myself. I used to say, Wilma, is this all your life is ever going to be about, just being sick all the time, being in the bed? And I said no. And I started fighting back. I guess that's when my competitive spirit started coming through. I would see all the other kids running and playing and jumping. And I said, Wilma, one day, I couldn't go to school because my leg wouldn't support me, so they had a tutor come by every once in a while. And my mama and my older brothers and sisters, they would teach me my basic math and writing. And then finally, when I was 7 years old, I got to go to elementary school. I was terrified. Oh, I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted to be ordinary, like all the other children, not here crippled and gimp leg. I wanted to be normal. And then that day came. I was a little over 10 years old, and it was a Sunday, I remember, and I decided to go to church without my brace. Now, this brace was the first thing I put on in the morning and the last thing I took off at night. Nobody ever seen me without my brace except my family and my doctors. But that morning, everybody saw me without my brace. I walked down that aisle like everybody else. I was ordinary. And then I set another goal for myself. I said, I want to be more than ordinary. I want to be extraordinary, more, bigger. I wanted to play and run and jump like all the other children. So when I went off to Burke High School from 7th to 12th grade, I decided I wanted to play basketball. Basketball was the favorite pastime in Clarksville, Tennessee. Everybody played basketball. When I had my brace on, I would lay in the bed and watch them, or I'd be sitting on a stoop. I was always watching and wanting to play basketball. So I tried out for the girls' basketball team. My older sister, Yvonne, she was on the girls' basketball team, and I wanted to follow in her footsteps. So I tried out for the basketball team several times. Well, then finally Coach Gray put me on the basketball team. And I sat there warming the bench for 3 years. 3 seasons I just sat there and I watched everybody else play the game. But, I didn't just sit there. I watched the game. I memorized the moves.
I'd memorized what worked, and I'd scrutinized what didn't work. And then in between the games, I would practice and practice with my basketball. I'd practice over and over the shots, everything that I saw. And then in between basketball seasons, that's when I joined the track team. Now, it wasn't because track took over my love for basketball. I love basketball. That's where my heart was. But track, well, it kept me busy in between the seasons. And, well, I remember the track team is when I got my nickname, Skeeter, because Coach Gray would say I was always getting in his way like a mosquito, always buzzing around, busy, busy, busy. I just kept at it all the time. So when I talk to the young women that I mentor through my foundation, I tell them, you be persistent. You just keep at it. You buzz around and you just keep at it and you keep trying and trying. And when you fall, you get up again and you try again. You be persistent. Well, the referee for the basketball team was Coach Ed Temple. Now, he was the coach for the women's track team at Tennessee State University, the Tiger Bells. Oh, but he was the referee during our basketball games. He told me years later that when he saw me play basketball, he knew he had met a natural athlete. Now, the track team at Berg High School, it was small and underfunded. And, well, Coach Gray, he used to drive us around to all the different schools in the area, so we can compete against other girls. And we went all around, and I won. I mean, running was like breathing to me. I didn't try to win, I just won. Oh, it was easy for me. And I won every game, every track meet since ninth grade. And I remember the first official track meet I ever went to. It was at Tuskegee Institute. And it was the first time I'd ever been on a college campus. And I looked all around, and the college girls, now they were good, and they were fast. But like I said, I was a little cocky. I had never lost a track meet. And I figured if I could beat all the girls all over the state, I sure could beat these college girls. Well, that's when I learned that raw talent is no match for superior discipline and experience. So even though I didn't show that good at that track meet, Coach Temple asked me to join the summer program at Tennessee State University and train with the Tiger Bells. I was excited and I was surprised. And I was even more surprised when my parents let me go. My daddy said that I was too young to be going off all by myself for the whole summer, but my mother worked on it. She said I was the first one in the family that would have a chance to go to college. And if it was going to be through running, then I was to run all the way. So there I was. Daddy changed his mind. And I was at Tennessee State University training with the Tiger Bells. And Coach Temple was relentless with his training and with his discipline. I mean, we had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and run 6 miles. Then we'd come back, we'd have breakfast and rest for a while. And then by 10:30, we were out again, and we ran another 6 miles. We'd come back, we'd have lunch and rest for a while. By 3 o'clock, we were out again, and we ran another 6 miles. I mean, the endurance that it helped me with, all that long distance running. And it taught me how to relax when I was running. My fists used to be all balled up, and he says, relax your hands, because if your hands were all tense, your whole body was all tensed. And he taught me how to breathe even while I was running, and all the training. And I had never worked with starting blocks. And start was always the bane of my existence. I always had bad starts. I'm tall for a sprinter, and so I always had horrible starts. But I worked on it, and I worked all summer. And Coach would always stress a team. He said, we are a team. We're not a bunch of individuals. We're a team. So at the end of the summer of 1956, Coach Temple asked me to join the team and go to Melbourne, Australia to run in the Olympics. I barely knew what the Olympics were. I was so surprised, and the next thing I knew, I was off to Seattle, Washington, where I qualified for the 200 heat, and there I was, the youngest member of the U.S. track team, on her way to Melbourne, Australia. Oh my. When we landed back in the United States after the Olympics, the Tiger Bells held a bronze medal for the 400-meter relay. Oh, they canceled school the next day after we got there, and they held this big assembly. And everybody wanted to hear about the Olympics and touch my medal, and I was signing autographs. I mean, they wanted my autograph. It was the finest moment of my life at that time in my life, until 1960 in Rome. There was no more bronze in Rome. Rome, it was gold. Gold in the 100-meter, gold in the 200-meter, and gold in the 400-meter relay. Gold. Oh, this time, when we landed back in Tennessee, the whole world met us there. All the television and the newspapers, the parades. Oh, the mayor, the governor was there. And not too many days after that, I was off all over on goodwill tours, all in every major city in the United States. And even out of the United States, I was the goodwill ambassador for West Africa. Oh, it was just a marvelous ride. I won every prestigious award there was to win for athletics. And all the time, in the back of my mind, kept tingling the next Olympics. And see, I needed some motivation for the next Olympics. Well, I had been running well. All this time in competition and breaking my own records. I'd been doing well, but my heart wasn't in the running anymore. I mean, what do you do when you want it all? My heart just wasn't in it. See, when you're running, when you're at top and you're competing, and when you want to stay on top, you gotta be a little hungry. So the motivation that I had came in Palo Alto, California, Stanford University, in a meet between the United States and the Russians. Well, that day we were slated to run the 400-meter, and we started out behind. Now, in a staggered start, you know you're going to be behind. But I said, okay, Wilma, when your teammate comes and takes that turn and passes that baton, she's going to catch up. But that didn't happen. So I said, okay, the next time with the next woman, when she passes the baton, she's going to have caught up with her and be just maybe a little bit ahead. But that didn't happen either. And earlier that day, I had made a promise to myself. I said, Wilma, if you catch the Russian, then it's history. It's over, you retire, you're on top. But if you do not catch the Russian, then you're going to have, this was 1962, so I would have had 2 more years of running till I got to Tokyo, and I hope that no one beat me. So you know what I did in that race? I caught the Russian. It was the fastest single race of my career. And I remember standing out there and in an open stadium, getting a standing ovation in my own country. That had never happened to me before. It was the greatest moment of my career. And I retired that day. And I never regretted it. I went back to Tennessee State University and finished my degree in early education. And I went back and I taught at my old elementary school. And I was the track coach at Burke High School for a while. When I worked with young women and through the foundation, I always tell them to have confidence in yourself. You be your biggest cheerleader. Have confidence in yourself and know that there's going to be a struggle. Greatness does not occur without a struggle. So you keep at it, and you keep at it. When you fall, you get back up, and you keep at it, and you reach for your dreams because you can do it. I guess if I had to think about it, and if I were to leave this earth today, my greatest moment would be to know that I worked with young people all over the country and inspired them and trained them. And I gave back to my youth. Thank you.
I'm here with Gwendolyn Briley-Strand, who's just performed as Wilma Rudolph. So thank you for being here again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but I love the characters that you've brought to us before, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, and now Wilma Rudolph. Why did you pick this particular character?
Well, the Humanities Council gave me a choice of 2 characters, and Wilma was one, and who was the other character? The other character, the tennis player.
I'm not really good at sports, even though our theme is sporting lives.
And I didn't know a lot about either one of them. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, Wilma sort of just intrigued me. And so I did a little reading. I said, okay, I'll do Wilma. I didn't realize there wouldn't be a lot of information about her, but she was still fascinating. And having gone through all that she went through, I thought she would be a really great inspiration for young people now.
And I think that inspiration, that sort of capsulizes her part of her story. And the other one, I like the quote she had: "The triumph can't be had without the struggle."
Without a struggle.
And she did struggle.
She struggled.
And she didn't seem to complain about it, but it must have been painful for the physical therapy, all that she had to go, all of the training that she had to go through. That doesn't come easy, but she carried it with such grace and dignity.
She did such grace, and because the sports for her, after fighting her way to health, because she said after she sort of gotten rid of the brace, it was the first time in her life she felt healthy. And she decided, you know, before she just wanted to be ordinary. And then she said, no, I'm going to set another goal. I want to be extraordinary. And so after she got her health, then she found out that, you know, all of the other came so naturally for her to be good. But for her to be great, she had to step up the bar, and she was willing to do what she had to do to be great.
Absolutely. If she came from a family of 22 children, it was interesting to read that it wasn't one set of parents.
Right, her father, this is the second, her mother was her father's second wife.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that they took shifts massaging her legs after so they had a lot of people, so no one had to take too many of a shift. But how much was her family support a part of her success, or helped propel her to success?
I think it was crucial. It was the foundation of her success. How her family, you know, when everyone else, when she was little, and everyone would tease her and call her crippled and give her, you know, her brothers and sisters would fight everybody, and so they stuck up for her then. And then when she needed her treatments to be done, they would, you know, teach each other, and everybody would stand in line, and they would help her, because so many of her siblings were so much older than her. So everybody pitched in, and her parents were just, they were there for her throughout her life. So, because when her mother died, that was a huge blow to her, huge blow.
Her father died, I read, in 1961. So he would have been able to see her win the Olympics. So that must have been
that was a joy for him, because there's a wonderful picture of the four of them in the back of one of these convertibles, and the parades and all of that. And so, yeah, she was glad that he got to see that. And then the rest of her, because her mother died the same year she did. Her mother died in May.
And she in November.
Right.
Tell us about what it was like for her to go back home after the triumphs in Rome and the attention. And
well, that was a quandary for her, because, like she said, it was difficult for her. She had to learn, she said, the hard way, how to go from this celebrity and fame life to being just a regular person again. And that meant a mother raising children. She had to work. There was all of the fame that she had through her sports didn't produce money. So she had to work jobs, and she doesn't talk much about, and in the biographies, or especially her autobiography, she doesn't talk about how much her husband made. It seemed like through the duration of their marriage, she was the major breadwinner. So that was difficult on her. She loved family. She loved family. She loved her children and all of that. So she was and that's why she loved coaching. It was that mother's heart of hers.
At one point, I read that her children were one of the most important things to her at the time that she was writing. She was speaking about that.
Right, right. They were very important. When she had Yolanda, her oldest daughter, when she had her, it just broke her heart that she couldn't have her with her all the time and raise her. But that's when she was training for all of the competition. She was still in high school, and Coach Temple didn't take girls that had babies onto the Tiger Bells. So she was he made an exception because of her talent. And her older sister, Yvonne, she was the one that I think she lived out of state at the time, and she raised Yolanda for a couple of years, and her father was ill then. Then her father sort of rallied for a while, and her mother said, okay, we're bringing the baby back, and she's going to be right there, in Clarksville, so you could see her. So she was, her children were really important to her.
Tell us about the homecoming from the 1960 Olympics and the parade that they were going to have for her.
Right. Clarksville was a segregated town. So they had made all of these grand plans for this, wonderful parade. And she didn't explain whether it would be, I don't know how they were going to do this, have a black parade and then a white parade. But it was definitely segregated because everything in the town was segregated. And she told them, she says, well, then you'll have to do it without me. I will not be a part of a segregated parade. And so that was the first integrated affair that town, that city ever had. And so she broke, she broke the boundaries there at home. And then she just tried to keep on and make sure that she did something for the youth and for these young black women that she wanted to encourage.
You talked in the question and answer period that the television audience didn't hear about the decorum that Ed Temple wanted them to have as black women athletes.
Yes, right. He wanted them to be he did not want to play down their femininity. He said, you're a woman first and you're an athlete second. And because especially I think all female athletes, but the black female athletes had such a bad name. They called them ugly, they called them monkey-like, and their hair and all of. So he wanted to make sure that they appreciated these young women's femininity. And so she was always, whenever she ran off a track, she would make sure her hair was right and done, and her face, put a little lipstick on and all of that. And her earrings, she wanted to, because he stressed team, not just individuals. So as a team, they wanted to really make sure that they were appreciated as young women as well as athletes. She's the first athlete who was ever called beautiful. So she was, and she was beautiful. She had all these different looks. When I look at all of the way she wore her hair, the big afro, then she ended up wearing it really short like this. And so she was into her jewelry, her shoes, her attire. So she was a lady.
I noticed in your costume you have pearls on the
yes,
bracelet.
I did. I said, with the rings on, but I put just a little pearl bracelet. Yeah. And she had, I saw her with these silver hoops. So that's when I wore that, and I saw the necklaces that she wore. So I said, I would there just to have a tad. The first performance I did, I had a pocketbook, but I said, well, I've been evolving. I says, no, I don't. Because she would carry a purse because she'd make sure she had a comb and brush there. So, yeah.
Now, the characters that you've brought to us, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, and Wilma Rudolph, all had a strong sense of purpose and a quiet grace in sort of their demeanor. So there's a real theme that is running through the characters that you're bringing.
Yeah, I think so. Wilma and Rosa did have that quietness and that grace that it takes to persevere through what they had to go through. Harriet was more rambunctious. She had to be in the time that she came from. But they all had this steel that ran down their spine that said, I can do, if I set my mind to this, I can make it happen. And that's what I love about the three of these women. They were pretty magnificent.
And there's that that's where the inspiration comes from. Even though Harriet Tubman was in the 1800s and Rosa Parks in the 50s, there's something that can be learned.
Yes.
From all of them.
From all of them.
Yeah, there's another quote that I like very much. Never underestimate the power of dreams
Yes.
and the influence of the human spirit.
Yes. I mean, and that is so her. I mean, she said when she would just watch when she had the brace, and she went from laying in the bed all the time to sitting in a chair or sitting on a stoop watching everybody else play. And she said, you know, Wilma, one day you're going to do that. And then when she tried out for the basketball team and she didn't get a chance to play, she did not sit back with an attitude. She says, okay. She planned, she strategized. She says, when I do get up there, this is what I'm going to do. So she dreamed, and it was the moon, and she just kept on going till she reached it.
Yeah, she did triumph.
Yes.
Even through the struggle.
Through the struggle.
And with the struggle that continued again.
Right,
she did.
that's true.
It's a lesson for all of us.
Yes.
We got about 2 minutes left, and I wanted to ask you about your acting career. You've been in movies and the places that were mentioned at the podium. So how did you decide to become an actor?
In junior high school, I think I was smitten with the first play and then my best friend, who is an attorney, we used to go to the movies, and I would sit there and watch these big screens, and I loved Barbra Streisand. So all of her movies, and then when we'd leave, I would sing the songs, I just loved the theater. And I had wonderful teachers in school, and then there was a woman, Tina Satin, who worked in the community with all of the young people. And I said, I want to be an actor. And she says, you want to be an artist? She says, because artists change the world. And and even as a kid, I said, yeah, now that's cool. I want to change the world. And so that's when I decided this is what I wanted to do. I was in every play, then went off to college, liberal arts education, and majoring in theater, and then graduating and going right off Broadway and doing film. As a union actor, I've been so blessed to be able to work. And
yes,
and
worked you have.
Yeah.
I mean, the credits are just incredible. Well, thank you so much for being
welcome.
here. We do hope that you bring us a new character very soon, because
Okay.
we've enjoyed and been inspired by the ones
Thank
you've
you.
brought so far.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. You have been watching Chautauqua Sporting Lives, and this has been an interview with Wilma Rudolph. I'm Angela Rice Beemer. Join us next time. Good night.